All right. Om Gam Ganeshaya. Okay, so I've never done a live stream before, so forgive me if this doesn't go as well as normal live streamers. It's all a new world. I've always wanted to do live streams though. So today I'm finally getting around to doing that. So there's a lot of stuff that I want to talk about. This will be some predictions and some kind of commentary just on 2021's astrology. And I've actually had this idea that I kind of feel like when I have time, I might want to start doing like astrological news articles or astro news, you know what I mean? So this might be a little bit of that. You know, I might just call this like astro news. This might be the first one ever, astro news articles or whatever. But I know a lot of us who are astrologers, when we read stories or hear things in the world or in the news, we can't help but find like an astrological connotation or correlation or something to kind of like, oh, my hair is kind of frizzy, but something to kind of like, you know, match it to. And this is how we learn as astrologers. So this is a good thing. So, you know, the last one that I talked about, the last time I did a video on anything like, anything prediction wise, you know, was the planetary war video with Saturn and Jupiter. Actually, before I say that, I want to say like just thank you to anyone who's watching this. Thank you so much. Anyone who's watching or is going to watch this. And I just noticed that I had 4,000 subscribers. So thank you so much for everyone who supported me first off before I move into this. Okay, so so I got really into studying mundane astrology this year because I reached a point where I thought, wow, it would be a good idea if there were more mundane astrologers who knew a little bit more about how to predict world events, or who could at least give us a general view, because the world's been getting so crazy, right? So, so I got really deep into the studying of the lunar New Year charts. Okay, so like the mundane charts, this right when the moment the sun enters Aries is a chart you can cast as Sankranti. And then another way you can do it is by actually the Chinese Lunar New Year. And the Chinese Lunar New Year works really, really well. You kind of like, it doesn't seem like it would, but it does. And if you guys want to calculate that, I'm going to try to show examples if I even can figure out how to share screens or whatever. But you guys can calculate the Chinese Lunar New Year's because it's basically the second new moon after the winter solstice. So if you had, you know, look at like right around December 20, around Christmas time was the winter solstice. So then in your software, just move forward. Okay, when's the next new moon? It'll be sometime in January. Then go 1 month ahead, and then that will be the second new moon. The moment that new moon happens, it's usually around early February or late January. That's the new moon in Aquarius, and that is the Chinese Lunar New Year. And that chart works really well for predicting mundane things. And the kind of like how the different nations will work in things. And then what's wild is that, so say USA has like it has Cancer rising for its Lunar New Year chart this year. China, on the opposite side of the world, will have like an almost opposite Lagna rising. Like I think they had Sagittarius rising this year, which is almost the opposite. And then, you know, Russia has like a Libra rising this year. And then India has like a Scorpio rising this year. So you get all these different nations with different rising signs and Lagnas, and then you start using the typical Varshafala solar return techniques, and you'll get some really interesting results. So that's what I got really into over the last 6 months or so, has been looking at all these charts of all these nations actually, and it's been really fascinating. And I've also studied, like, because, you know, I've been into the financial astrology more, so I've been using it for that, to study market shifts. Like when we had Black Tuesday, the year that the stock market crashed in like 1929, you look at that Lunar New Year chart, it shows it so clearly. So with that said, 2020, we had that great eclipse in January, and the Lunar New Year charts for the US and for a lot of countries were really bad. Um, what's fascinating is that China actually had Capricorn rising in its 2020 Lunar New Year chart. So, you know, that was the Capricorn was where the whole eclipse, all the nasty stuff was happening. You know, Saturn and Jupiter and Pluto and all that stuff going on. And China has that as its first house of its 2020 eclipse chart. Whoa, like that is heavy. I'm not going to say anything definitive about that, but you know, it kind of gives you a major hint about what initiated the major events of 2020, what nation started it. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, so that also brings me to another point. A lot of the reason that I didn't keep going with all these predictions was, you know, due to the censorship that's going on in this world right now, and it's a little too much for an eclectic person like me who doesn't fit into any one box of like, you know, right or left or this or that. Um, so I kind of like held off, but I've got to say why that was, you know, so. The last video that I did was on the Great Conjunction, Jupiter and Saturn in Shravana Nakshatra. And you guys should check out that video. I talked about how there is actually a planetary war going on with Jupiter and Saturn. So back on the December 21st, 2020, the Great Conjunction, when Jupiter and Saturn moved into Aquarius, everyone was hyping that up. But like a lot of people didn't really have a objective, concrete statement to make about it. But what I made a very concrete statement about it. I said, this is a planetary war. This is a very specific thing in Vedic astrology that only Vedic does. And it's calculated using local space, and it's just very specific. Saturn and Jupiter were doing this, and Saturn was winning the war. And so this meant that Jupiter losing the war. Well, what I was interpreting, how I was interpreting that was that, okay, Shravana is talking, conversing, the conversation. So there is a planetary war on the narrative, on the conversation, on the dialogue. And, you know, like less than a month later, Twitter even suspended and deleted the account of our president. You know what I mean? Even Trump's Twitter got deleted. And yet at the same time, right now, the Afghanistan's Twitter is not being deleted. Sorry, not Afghanistan, the ISIS, Al Qaeda. My mind's all over the place right now, forgive me, but there are Taliban leaders who are not getting their accounts deleted, yet the president got his account deleted. That's all I was trying to bring up there. And so basically, we've been having, since that Great Conjunction, a major like war on dialogue, on conversation. And it was so fascinating because I made that video, and normally I don't even get a lot of comments, but then like I looked and checked it later that afternoon and had like 10 people commenting, all these people are dying. How can you say this about this or that, or the virus or the vaccine, all this stuff? How can you say this about the narrative, blah, blah? And I was like, all right, turn comments off. So I had to turn comments off from that video, which I've never even done before. But that was like, because I invoked this planetary war accidentally, you know, by talking about it. And we can do that with planets and astrology, right? You spend all day talking about Saturn, you might end up feeling a little more depressed than on a day that you talk about Venus all day, right? So that kind of like set the tone for the year. And, you know, Saturn is like also like simplicity, like farmers, like simple people. And like, yeah, if you're just the simple people are getting the truth. It's a lot of these highly educated, highly learned Jupiter people who are so into their intellect and their ideologies and their idea of what's right, that they're so dug in on that they're causing a lot more trouble than they would if they just led by example, right? And so Jupiter, on the one hand, is like our guides and our gurus and our authorities and people we look to for guidance. In the modern day world, that is kind of like doctors. That is like these, the news and all this stuff. Unfortunately, I wish it wasn't that way. But here in America, people's gurus are like Fauci. You know what I mean? They are like these people who are not, in my opinion, qualified to play that role. And so though Jupiter losing the war shows that these gurus are failing us, that these like guys or these authorities that we turn to are going to lose the war. And yet Saturn, nature, simplicity, just listen to an old farmer down the road, what he thinks, you know what I mean? And then you'll hear the truth. This has kind of been this strange phenomenon of Saturn and Jupiter in Shravana, Nakshatra, the star of conversation and dialogue. So I talked about that. That seems to have really been true because that, again, that was before there was even more intensity on like social media and censorship and all. But now it's also really fascinating seeing how the media like, well, no, I'm going to leave that alone. But the other thing is that then the mundane New Year chart came in. So that was in January and late December and January when we had that that planetary war with Saturn and Jupiter. Planetary war is very rare. A planet has to be within 1 degree of the other planet. And then again, we had this when the new moon, the Lunar New Year started around February 4th or something, or 11th. Right around that time, we also had the moment of our New Year chart, we had a planetary war also happening with Jupiter and Venus. What are the odds of that? That is so freaking rare. And when I've gone back through and looked at mundane charts, planetary war is a big deal. Like I think World War II started with a planetary war in the mundane charts, or it was some major, I want to say World War II started the year that there was a big planetary war in the mundane charts. So that was really intense. And so basically, you know, this time it's Venus and Jupiter that are at war. Okay. And Venus, there's just a common rule that Venus always wins the planetary war whenever she's in it because she's the brightest light. The sun and the moon don't get involved in planetary war. So Venus is winning this planetary war against Jupiter. So once again, Jupiter, guides, gurus, doctors are failing us and they're losing. So basically it's showing that they're just not strong enough to guide us at this time. So that's the thing, is a lot of the ones that are really legit are just afraid to speak out because they don't want to lose their life, or they don't want to be put in a gulag or something, you know, and you really truly can't blame them. Each person has to kind of make that decision for themselves depending on their karma and whatnot. So I'll try to share this. I don't even know how to share screens. Oh God. If I could figure out, or if one of you guys want to tell me how to share screens, I could basically, or I could do another video about it if I can't figure it out. But basically, you're looking at all the mundane charts, you'll really see it more technically. But Venus is defeating Jupiter, and so think about what Venus is. Venus is like politicians. So one hand you have good like guides and see, Jupiter is more like your ideological divine guides, like Jupiter was like Zeus, he's like heaven, he's related to the heaven, the divine laws, and culture. And so he has more of this quality of like he kind of relates to the state and government, you know what I mean, and culture a little bit. Whereas Venus is more natural. Venus was the guru of the ashras, you know what I mean, and is a little bit different. And so on the one hand, we're seeing that, okay, Jupiter's losing the war, Venus is winning. So this means that really dogmatic gurus, or, state-funded gurus, or, these ideological Jupiter people are losing, and Venus is winning over them, which means just natural, simple people, a person on Instagram, an influencer, something like that maybe. But then on the other hand, if we look at it from another angle, Jupiter is just goodness. Goodness itself is losing this year, like is not able to do much. And Venus is more like worldly desires, like politicians, comforting, luxury. So Venus in Venus winning this war means that politicians are screwing up our Jupiter, our guru, our goodness, you know what I mean, or our inner vision. So there's a really interesting dichotomy here going on that we're seeing. We're really seeing like this basically this kind of war over a narrative, or over yeah, basically people's decisions, you know, people's idols are based on these two planets, you know. So like basically the way I see this is that there's a planetary war going on in the skies over our knowledge and our beliefs. You know, Venus and Jupiter both represent, they're both gurus, they both represent our beliefs, and they're kind of like slightly different, you know, in their approach. And so they can actually kind of butt heads. But yeah, there's some sort of intellectual and social war going on this year, with it being in Aquarius, an air sign, a sign of society, and then with it dealing with Shravana, which is about you know, dialogue and conversing and hearing. Um, and you know, it's also even like Jupiter is like the Akasha, like the heavenly support from the Father, the heavenly Father element, the Sky Father. Like Dyaspiter is actually where the word Jupiter comes from the Sanskrit word Dyaspiter, which means Sky Father. So the Sky Father is got no ability to help us right now. You know what I mean? Like that's one way to look at it. And there are just times like that, you know. In the myths of Hinduism, they talk about this a lot. There are times when the Asuras are winning, and then there are times when the Devas are winning, you know. And there's just um, you know, two different forces in this world. Um, so yeah, Venus being like politicians and worldly advisors. These advisors are pummeling the Jupiter advisors, which are just true spiritual advisors, like truly just God, you know. That's kind of Jupiter's thing. Just knowing the Veda, knowing the big picture, the rest is details, you know. But that's not that easy to really like meet that ideal in the world. So we need Venus other times, which is a more worldly guru. But these worldly gurus are like so powerful right now that they're kind of like crushing some of the Jupiter types of gurus. It's really funny. A lot of gurus are really silent right now. My personal favorite guru right now, who is actually still alive, is Swami Prajnananda. He's a Kriya Yoga guru. You can check him out on there's a popular YouTube channel, Kriya Yoga Masters or something. They upload videos and talks to him all the time. I love his stuff. And he's been silent. He was silent a lot of the last year. I don't know if he started talking more this or that, but he was observing silence. And also, a lot of gurus passed away right before this. Like in 2019, Roy Eugene Davis, one of my favorite masters, passed away when Jupiter and Venus were both proud. A lot of them just checked out right before this. It's like they just knew they didn't have the energy, or if they were older, they just didn't need to go there. So yeah, the medical authorities, the Jupiter guides don't have a lot to help us with. And Venus is casual living, natural living, not necessarily being all about this ideal. Like, I have to be vegetarian, I have to be this, you have to be having you cannot be in here if you don't have this, you know. That's more of this corrupt Jupiter that's showing up. And you know, Venus is natural living. Hey, maybe we should just get some vitamin D in the sun. You know, hey, the Haitian president said ginger root is really good for this virus, and then like a month later, he died. He was murdered in front of his family, and then the people turn out to be FBI informants. I have the links if I can figure out how to share that with you guys. Here, I'm going to take a look at these comments. Hey everyone, thank you for watching. A beginner book for predictions on astrology. Just get the basics of astrology down before you try to predict it. So really, any book, Graha Sutras is a really good book for the planets. And then yeah, or just to learn astrology, I would say get Graha Sutras. Really, there's a lot. I don't know. There's a lot of good ones. Yes, the baths. Suggestions for retro. Oh, thank you. Yeah, simpletons are like, yeah, we're hearing the truth from simpletons more. And there's almost kind of reminds me of that quote from Revelations, like you'll hear the truth from the mouth of babes, you know, like little kids, little children will speak the truth, you know, in the later on. Oh yeah. Yeah, we can have some tough situations with gurus and stuff with this planetary war this year. Interesting. That's interesting about Brihat Samhita. What makes you say that? And then what's a gulag? It's like a concentration camp, like a place where they put people to be re-educated on their thoughts. And then, yeah, cool. So I wonder how the hell people do, how do people share stuff when they're live streaming? I'll have to figure that out. Yeah, so basically that's what I've been seeing happening this year. And let's talk about let's talk about a few more things. So yeah, we could have some major financial issues coming up later this year, like maybe stock market issues, crashes. I'm live streaming through YouTube Studio, Lucy. Thank you for asking me. And totally forgot what I was going to say. Okay. Great to see you live. Can you recommend your favorite book on omens? There's not really any good books on omens, but I had a course. That's why I went out of the way to teach this free course. So check out the free course I have on my channel on omens, and I kind of explain how you can learn to read omens through that. But then in terms of like a good handbook, the book Medicine Cards is a really good one. It's got all the Native American animals in. If you live in America, that's a great one to have because you're going to see different animals than what people would see in India and stuff. So get that book, Medicine Cards. Oh yeah. So anyways, financial issues. Yeah, that's a possibility. I don't know enough to say for sure, but there could be some kind of like real market crashes or issues going on. I'm very much into the cryptocurrency, which, you know, like you can watch that previous video I did. We've done really accurate with that. And so I'm not talking about crypto because that's decentralized. But yeah, it's financial crash is very possible in the stock market. I think it would actually help the crypto markets though in the long term, in a sense. Take my courses on the crypto stuff if you want that. I don't feel like giving out so much free value on that for free because it's just so ridiculously valuable. I made people hundreds and like thousands and thousands of dollars at this point. I've been making people, and it's so easy. It's so hard, like not to make money in a bull market, and I mean, it's starting back up again. You know, take the 12-hour course that I've made on that, and I'm continuing to make more of. If you need to work on your abundance, you know, if you have Rahu in the second, Rahu in Taurus, Rahu with the second lord, something like that, you should definitely get into that and check out those courses. All right, so. Yeah, Biden could fall, and then Kamala Harris could take his place. That could be the planetary war because, you know, Jupiter, male planet, like again, like state-like figure, losing this war, Venus winning it. Kamala Harris could end up replacing him before next February. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not like saying that for sure, but just very, very likely based on what we're looking at. Really, really fascinating how K2 is what we know to be what you should let go of, right? That you have to let go of. K2 is in Sagittarius, the sign of the ideals, the sign of like our beliefs and our philosophies. Rahu is the sign of the arms, okay? Rahu is where you always need to develop but like detox from. Like you're toxic there, you need to work on that. Pay a lot more attention to that. Don't just go unconscious on that. Rahu is in the arms. How fucking fascinating is it that the toxin, you know, Rahu is toxins, arm. What is it they're trying to get us all to take? Huh? You know what I mean? What is it that they're trying to, there's something, isn't there? Huh? You know, I can't say it because again, I don't want to wake up tomorrow and have my YouTube channel be gone, but isn't that interesting, you know? And then Sag is the only sign of a needle, of a bow, of a weapon, of a projectile thing that goes into you. And we know K2 is the thing you want to stay the hell away from. And K2 is in Sag right now and has been for the last year. Very, very interesting. I'll let you guys think about what that might mean. But there's only one sign that's symbolized as, you know, as a needle, and its Lord, Jupiter, is again losing the war this year. You know what I mean? And Gemini, the sign of the arms, Mercury, you know, that's about thinking for yourself, questioning, being a student. You know what I mean? Geminis are two-faced. You know, we need to hear both sides right now. This is the best time in your life to ever, if you are hardcore on one side of the political spectrum, please do yourself a favor and get off of it and hear both sides. You know what I mean? Because you're, you know, the middle way is the way to go if you're a spiritual person. You know what I mean? And so just leave it at that. Let's say if Jupiter was in Sag back in 2019, it was in a proud dignity, maybe I'd look at this differently. You know what I mean? But there is nothing good going on about Sag right now, and that arrow, you know, needle symbolism there is a little bit concerning. Okay, so YouTube live streaming with your webcam does not let you screen share. Lucy, if you get a chance, can you tell, like, if you don't, it's fine, but tell me what I would need to do screen sharing. Because I would just assume that YouTube live is the way you were supposed to go live. How else are you supposed to go live? That's weird. Thank you, though. Thank you, Lucy, for checking on that. Our gold price is going to increase any later this year. Are you going to pay me anything if I tell you this? I can tell you that right now, Ipurva, but join my financial courses. You would have already known that. And yes, we're going to have a whole class on gold with my friend Raj Chadha, who I brought on here. And yeah, you got, you know, just, you know, I'm not going to give you like something that valuable for free. That's just not how this works. You know, you can donate right now. You know, you could throw a donation out and I'll do a project for someone, but I'm not, sorry, I'm not going to. No. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I need to use another platform to share. Does anybody have any questions? Throw them out there for me right now. I'll probably go in a minute then for if I can't figure out. But basically, I wanted to share. Okay, let's review a little bit about the 2020 predictions I made. So in 2020, I made a prediction on we're going to have major currency changes. You know what I mean? And I said in this video in December, you should really buy some Bitcoin. It's a really good time. Still standing by that. Buying crypto. This is not financial advice. This is entertainment purposes only. But buy crypto. Okay? You know what I mean? That is just obvious. Like, it's just a beginner astrologer could have looked at the Jupiter transits of the last few years and really seen why that was going to happen. So seeing now that banks are using Ethereum, Visa's now embracing Ethereum, all these different things, it's you know, I've been saying this all year, but it's pretty obvious that the elite are just holding this off until they've built up enough a big position so that when they do unfold it, they can stay on top and not suffer, you know what I mean, as a result of not having been invested so deeply in that market. So that is a very, you know, that's a very just another side thing to think about. And then I talked about this. This is kind of funny, but I said in my video in December of 2020 how there would be, you know, Jupiter is oil and Saturn in Aquarius. Aquarius is a sign of islands and it's also a sign of standing in the deep, like, which is what an island in, but just standing in the middle of deep water is ruled by Aquarius. So I realized, oh, oil rigs, you know, there's going to be a possible big disaster on an oil rig. So I made an Instagram post about that today. You can go and check that out. But I showed the little quote where I said an oil rig could get destroyed or something like that. And then, you know, you can look this up, but the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico had literally like an explosion. There was an underground pipeline, Aquarius, carrying water, you know. There was a gas leak there. Saturn is gas, or the air element. The wind element is gas. But there's also ether in gas, so that's, again, Jupiter. So it was kind of perfect how it just sort of all those factors fit in there. Jupiter's oil, and then Mars was in Leo aspecting it. So that was like, and there was a, you know, that tense oppositional aspect, so made a lot of sense that we had an oil explosion. You know what I mean? So you guys thought that was very interesting. And there could be more issues when it comes to like energy and oil issues, and also we might see more themes of clean water going on. Now, also when it comes to stocks, it's a really good idea to invest in some clean water stocks. If you want my opinion on that, I'm not involved in the stock market. I'm just staying in the crypto market, but that would be a really good area to invest in. I think we're going to have a lot more issues coming up with clean water, and a lot more work will be done to try to deal with that. And also sustainable energy. This Jupiter, Saturn, Aquarius thing is good for that. It is good for sustainable energy. So I think we might see some more things opening up with that. And then also last year, I can't remember when, but I talked about how, Gemini is a sign of roads and traveling within your nation. And then Sag is the sign of traveling in other people's nations. The third house is traveling through your nation. So then the seventh is the other nation. And then the third through there is traveling through states within another nation. Like if I was to go to India and I go travel around through different parts of India, that would be my ninth house, or Sag, getting activated. If I'm to travel around in the United States, around the southeastern US, that's my third house, or Gemini, getting activated. This works very, very well. So the eclipses there, I was like, oh man, this is really symbolizing major problems with travel coming up, major issues with roads and stuff. So we're seeing that now. You can't go, you can't go to a certain country without a vaccine passport. I wanted to leave the country this summer and I ain't doing it now because I'm afraid of what I'd rather just sit home. The astrology is not right for this year. And so, yeah, we have seen sort of this like lockdown effect kind of carried over to like borders and roads and travel, and making travel a lot harder. What's also interesting is, like if you kind of combine what I just said with issues with roads and travel, and then if you combine that with the energy and the Jupiter and Saturn having with like energy and sustainability and just good survival, commerce kind of practices, that kind of explains why that whole Suez Canal thing happened as well. That was back when everything was in Aquarius, back in like February. We had a whole mishap there. That kind of makes a lot of sense when we think about, like travel and roads is Gemini. You know what I mean? So getting through that canal was like that Gemini Sag axis getting eclipsed, Yeah. Yeah, I wonder what other platform you would use to share. You would think YouTube would have this down. Yeah, just let go of your job, Katie. If I was you, it's also what you can do is a lot of people are going to their employer. Oh yeah, here's the thing. Get yourself fired. Don't quit. If they're telling you got to take that in order to stay at your job or whatever, stay until they fire you, because they won't want to, and legally they'll have to pay for all these other things if they fire you. Whereas if you quit, they're absolved of all liability, just in like general legal practices. So that's not telling you what to do, as I don't know who I'm even talking to right now, but just as a general idea, that's good advice. And then also you can present them with the contract saying, okay, I'll take it, but you're legally responsible for everything that happens. I still wouldn't take it though if I were you. But that would be the other thing. If you did feel like taking it, you could just present them with the contract. Okay, sure, but you have to be legally responsible for any side effects, and then they're definitely not going to sign it, and they'll probably just leave you alone. And then, I'll share an example of myself. Okay, so I started learning Aikido last January of 2020, and I actually started on the Lunar New Year of January 2020 because there was a silent practice, and the sensei there, who's a really badass sensei who learned directly from Morihei Ueshiba, the founder of Aikido, one of the greatest martial artists on the planet to ever have lived, was this guy, Sensei, Morihei Ueshiba. Look him up. He was a Sadguru. He's not well known. He was enlightened. He could be meditating, and he would know if someone was coming up to attack. He would let his disciples try to attack him with a sword at any moment, and he would just know. He would always know what was happening. And he taught this guy, Roy Sunaka. Sunaka taught here in Charleston. I was very, very eager to learn from this sensei once I learned how close of a lineage this was. And so I went to the Chinese New Year. It was a silent practice, considered very auspicious. It would have been if it wasn't on this horrible eclipse with this horrible energy. So I went in there and it was a great class, blah, blah. Well, the sensei was sick that day and then he died like a week later. So I never got to meet the sensei. So that shows you how this debilitated Jupiter, this eclipse affected even my personal life. Like I have a good Jupiter, but I was really eager to learn from this martial arts master, and he'd passed away like just before I got like, you know what I mean? Like I was so close, you know. And I remember thinking, man, this is a really bad muhurta. Like I was offered this invitation to go, but I know Jupiter's trashed right now, and I want to learn from a new Jupiter figure. And yeah, and then he died like a week or two later. Or within a few weeks, and I actually saw an owl the night before. Owls are an omen of death too. Just for you guys, they're omens of other things as well, but they can symbolize death. And I did see an owl the night before, and then like a week later, the corona happened and everything. And now the owl was also probably indicating that. But so at my practice, I started on a bad muhurta. This is a good example of when bad muhurta comes, and you just got to do your best with it, right? So I have Mars with Rahu though. So my Mars, like warrior, it's got that, it's tainted by Rahu. So I was meant to have this like not perfect experience, you know? So yeah, I missed the mark, missed meeting that guru. In that class, people like, you know, a lot of people are kind of just like idiots in that class that eat Spam and Burger King, and then, you know, like kind of make fun of me, or like, you know, might be kind of, I don't know, a little closed-minded or critical. And I was talking about homeopathy at one point during this year, and then before I know it, I go in, and then this is flash forward. You know, that was when I started. I'm just trying to say that I had some bad experiences there, where it was just not easy to feel like in the flow. You can just tell when you start on a bad muhurta with certain things. But Rahu with Mars, I had to keep powering through it, keep working on it. You know, and then this year it was starting. You know, I was getting more in the flow of it, finally starting in the flow of it. And then I show up one day and they're like, oh, are you vaccinated? If you're not, you can't come. You have to wear a mask. It was 95 degrees out. We're practicing in a warehouse with no AC, just one fan in the summer, like in July in Charleston. I'm sorry, but no one should have to wear a mask. And that's by no means remotely good for your health. And, you know, he said I would have to wear it. Everyone else doesn't. I'm sorry, but that is humiliating. You know, that is the equivalency of wearing like a dunce cap. Like what they're trying to do to people right now is, and say, oh, you have to, you know, wear a mask, or you have to have this passport or that. They're trying to humiliate people. You know what I mean? And that is the exact same equivalent of in the old days when we would say, you're stupid, like you have to put on the dunce cap, you know what I mean? And all of us are here smart, but you're dumb. Like that's exactly the same thing. Trader Joe's, a grocery store, I had to stop going to that place completely because they would let you shop last year without a mask, but you had to have this shopping cart that had a flag saying like no mask, like look at him. And it's so obvious that someone's not wearing a mask. You can just see that. You don't need a cart or like a humiliation psychological device, you know, to give to them. But that's what we dealt with. And that's what we're continuing to deal with, because Aquarius is really the sign of psychology and psychological wholeness. So all these planets, I'm sorry, I can't share the mundane chart, but if you look at, I'll make another video. All the planets are in Aquarius except Mars in the mundane chart for this year. So every nation has it like that. It just depends on what house or what lagna you get. You know what I mean? What you're ruled by. But yeah, I wanted to say this earlier in my notes, and I must have missed it. But 2020 looked like the year that was that was objectively messed up. Like it was in Capricorn. This Capricorn quality of external things falling apart, being eclipsed. You know what I mean? That's what we experienced with 2020. 2021's Lunar New Year chart is worse. That's what's crazy, is our astrology is worse for this year on a mundane level than last year. And I didn't realize that. I didn't know that because I didn't even know enough about mundane last year. But yeah, I thought it would get a lot better this year. No. Our mundane chart is so bad that it's actually like worse this year. And I would qualify it as being psychologically worse. Like it is psychologically tormenting to be in the United States for a lot of people right now. and or to be in any part of the planet right now. And so yeah, so that's because of that Aquarius quality. But Aquarius is really the sign of a maker of tanks and ponds, one bearing water. It's about making life more bearable for everyone. And I have to hold out hope that, that Saturn is proud in this chart. Saturn is strong in the 8th. So when Saturn's really proud and strong in the 8th, all kinds of crazy things can happen. But the long term, you get stronger as a result, long-term level. So I hope that the long-term results of this, are better for the world and for like Saturn, for like our immune system, for like strengthening our natural health. I hope so. But yeah, Venus and Saturn are the really strong planets this year. And they both have to do with just natural living, and not like, eating natural raw foods, fasting if you feel sick, not going to a doctor, not slamming all these chemicals and pharmaceutical things, deranging your DNA with gene therapy, which is what, the vax really is, Yeah. Yeah, let them fire you. And yeah, wait till last second. Yeah, maybe you could do a religious exemption. And I don't know enough about that. I think we're really close to being at the end of this. Or like, I don't know. I can't say that. It could be that they're giving up, or then maybe something even worse is about to come out, like a real virus or something. But I don't really know. I can't say that for sure. Yeah, and then you still had to wear a mask even if you had it. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. Oh, that's cool. You have Mars and Rahu too. Yeah, you have to fight and assert yourself and exert yourself a lot more with Mars Rahu. It's tough placement, but it's, so is a lot of shit, right? So is life. Nothing's going to be perfect. And I'm going to make a video on Mars Rahu and Mars K2 soon when I get a chance. What about Uranus stationing and retrograding? Uranus stations and retrogrades every year, kind of for a while, and I don't have a major opinion on that as an isolated thing, but I would say that I think you asked about food shortages. I have talked about that in the financial courses already. You guys, I don't get paid anything to go on YouTube. Like I have to take a whole day off. I have to not get paid for a day to do this for you guys. So I'm sorry I keep sounding like a broke record, but just take the courses if you're really serious, because I get validated for that, and I really put a lot into them, and they're really good. So like, yeah, food shortages are covered in class 5. We will cover that more, but look out for that when Rahu enters Taurus. Yeah, for food shortages. Great time to start planting some fruit trees now. Yeah, I don't know. I want to share so much more. I'll leave it at this. It's been 40 minutes. You guys, thank you so much for checking this out and watching this. If you guys have any questions, hang tight. Yeah, just check out hey Maria, yeah, check out my website, eyeoftheveda.com, and then the blog is just all the most recent courses, or you can click on astrology courses. And yeah, so I basically just teach like, every couple weeks I do a live Zoom class, but you don't have to make the live class. Most people can't. And then if you're in that, you can ask questions, and, we have more of a dialogue going. And then after that, I send a recording out. And so if you aren't able to make it, you still just get the recordings and you can study on your own. And then I send out like a group recap with sort of like some predictions, forecasts for the week. And then you also, whatever PDFs or stuff we cover, because I'm teaching astrology while I'm doing it. I'm not just giving free predictions to everybody. It's more like teach a man to fish than give a man a fish. So if you're not at all interested in learning astrology, you don't want to take this course. I'm just going to be honest. You want to just hire me to give you forecasts. You know what I mean? But if you can't afford all that and you're into this in astrology, a lot of you guys know a lot of stuff. Y'all really can be doing a lot for yourselves with financial astrology. Not saying that everyone, I'm not guaranteeing it, because everybody's karma is kind of different. But yeah, get into those courses, because it's just been a lot of fun. And I'm also teaching just a plain jyotish and yogic philosophy Zoom course. I've only done 2 so far. The first one was just on like general yogic philosophy. Second one was on the grahas. Third one will be on rashis. Just like really basic, like getting your basics down and practicing and having someone to talk with. So that's been a lot of fun. And then I have a private group chat for just the jyotish philosophy students and just the financial astrology students on Telegram as well. And yeah, in the future financial courses, I'm going to do ones that focus more on different things like gold. We're going to have a class on gold with Raj coming in. We're going to have a class on like stock markets, like IPOs, reading a stock. But I'm just not as into that yet, so I'm kind of waiting on that till I'm more well-versed in all that. But Raj is really specialized on that, so I want to have him talk about that too at some point. I'd want to do an entire other course on the moon, just on learning how to read the moon and liquidity. The last one was on Jupiter and the Wealth Foundation, and Jupiter's Avastas and Wealth Foundation. We really got into a lot of good, solid stuff that even beginners can use there. And then the moon, will do the same thing with the moon. Moon and Jupiter are so crucial for wealth. A lot of people think it's just Venus. Venus is great. I'm not saying Venus can't give wealth, but there's just a lot to it. And then I haven't made the Rashi's class yet. I'll make that one. We're going to set that one up in the next few weeks or so. Join my Telegram in the bottom if you want to get actual updates, because social media just suppresses and censors everything. So if I make a post and not everybody likes it in the first 5 minutes, they're just like, oh, that post is yeah, and then nobody else gets to see it. So look up Eye of the Veda on Telegram to get to be aware of everything that I'm doing. And it's just unfortunate that we have to do that, but Telegram's great. If you guys have a subject you like, you should start a Telegram channel on it. I mean, if when I did that, I realized, wow, this is what it would be like if censorship wasn't a factor. Like, make a post about Venus. Anyone who types in Venus in a Telegram will see my message. Like, and it'll be seen by like 800 people, and I only have like 100 people subscribing. So that means it's showing it to a lot of people who are just searching. This is how YouTube started out. This is how the internet started out. It was a very democratic, amazing thing, and we need to get back to that. More equal playing field, you know? Yeah, see, what is Telegram? A lot of us don't even know still. Telegram's been around for years, and it's basically just it's a non-censored version it's like a Telegram. Like, you guarantee that you get the message. It's basically like iMessage. You can chat, message me back and forth, but then you can also follow channels, and you can also set up group chats. So I can follow channels of like news sites that I like that are completely suppressed, that don't come up when you search anymore, stuff like that. Oh, thank you for introducing me to Meher Baba. Yeah, Jay Baba. Meher Baba is an amazing master. He's on the next level, real deal Indian spirituality stuff there. Not for everyone, but he's a stealer of hearts. He will steal your heart. Okay, all right, you guys. I'm gonna leave it on that. Paying per session is not convenient. Can we pay for a month or more? No, I don't care about convenience. You have to learn to recognize value. Like, this is not convenient for me. You know, if you want to really make more money, you have to get over the need for convenience that this mainstream world makes us think we need. Yeah, just suck it up and pay for it. If you recognize value, that won't be a problem. Oops. Sorry. I don't know if you guys lost me there, but yeah, you know, we just have to appreciate value. I don't have a secretary. I don't have any assistants to help me like do any of this extra stuff. I'm editing a book right now, teaching 2 sets of courses, got readings, got a lot of stuff to do. I'm doing my absolute best, but my Mercury is just not good enough to keep everything perfectly organized. So y'all have to just put up with that. I would. My teacher Ernst has a terrible Mercury and misspeaks half the time, and I don't care. Like, I recognize value when I find it, you know. And I just sucked it up and absorbed. I've memorized his classes to the point where I can predict when his stupid dad joke's going to come, because I've listened to them so many times. And yes, it's inconvenient. Yes, he goes on and on and on about some things that could take 5 minutes, and then another thing that I wish he went on and on. He doesn't. I put up with it, you know, like, beggars can't be choosers, sort of. And this whole astrology world is so new. That also answers the question of why there aren't a lot of good books out. Books take years. I've been working on a book since 2013, and I might get it finished this year if I'm lucky. It's 300 pages. That takes a lot of time. I can just go on YouTube and talk for an hour, and that's easier. So that's why you're going to find a lot more information on YouTube than you are in books when it comes to the latest Vedic astrology stuff. Of course, there are a lot of great books. You know, check out the book reviews channel on my page. I have a playlist on book reviews of good astrology books. But ultimately, it takes years to write a good book. So that's the only reason that there aren't more out. You guys should, you know, try to start books too and write them, but it just takes a long time. So my book will be out hopefully soon. My book is on astrology and mythology and movies, and I think it will be a lot of fun. It's called Astrologically Understanding Movies. And yeah, enough said on that. All right, y'all, I'm taking off. Thank you guys so much for coming and sitting and enjoying my first live stream. Thank you so much.